Hello, everybody. Sorry for the long delay. We had some technical difficulties. We are finally back. We're on the road today. We have driven up to see one of our good friends, Steve Johnson. We've known him for 3 or 4 years now. Very good guy, very good entrepreneur. He is far more of a bourbon connoisseur than what I am, by far. Steve, introduce yourself to the camera there for a minute.
Well, my name's Stephen Johnson. Live in the Kansas City area. Been an entrepreneur, I guess, for 20-ish, 22 years. Let me see here. 20 years. And do commercial truck business, primarily just buying and selling of large vehicles, and own some real estate properties. Do a lot of hunting and even a little guiding.
Yeah. One thing I can tell you is every time I've been around Stephen, he's got his phone close to him, and I wish my wife would understand this a little better. He's got his phone right down here, which we're fine with. He's doing his business is a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week business, and so this is one of the big reasons we traveled to him. Is it's very difficult to get someone as busy as he is on a podcast just for a couple hours when he's got to drive 3 or 4 hours to come to us. So, as we always state, the name of the podcast is Birddogs, Bourbon, and the Good Life. Our bourbon today is barrel bourbon. We've had barrel bourbon on before, but this time we purchased a selected Chairman's Edition 3. So I'm going to tell you, Stephen he's had so many bourbons that I spent like 40 minutes to an hour in the liquor store just trying to figure out which one to get that maybe he hasn't had. Okay. And this one, I lucked out. He hasn't had it yet. He did just buy a barrel bourbon the other day. Yep. And it's actually in his pantry, but we're going to try the one I brought. It is a 115 proof. This is a little different. It's saying this is a blended bourbon, 65% 5-year, 20% 7-year, 5% 10-year, and 10% 17-year aged bourbons. This is bottle 59. On the back here, it describes how this is a rare bottle, one of our private release series. We carefully blended each private release bourbon as a micro blend using one of our own empty bourbon barrels as a marrying cask. Each of the unique bourbons are bottled at cask strength so you can appreciate the true flavor. And so that was written by the chairman that selected this bourbon. And Steve, you want to try this with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me what you think about it. Oh man, that's good.
It's good bourbon.
That's a good bourbon. You don't see ice in mine because it melted down. Steve is a lot more of a bourbon connoisseur than I am, and he wanted it nice and straight. What do you think?
I like them neat. Well, I catch a little vanilla, a little caramel on the smell. I'm not the best at this, but a little hot on the front side and very nice on the back. Just a nice, straightforward bourbon is how I would explain it.
Yeah, very, very nice bourbon. It is a little bit warm on the front side. And for the people that don't quite understand what we mean by it's a little hot or a little warm on the front side, is it's the alcohol proof. But what I'm enjoying is for 115 proof, you're not getting the burn going down so much.
Not at all.
So it's really, really nice blend of bourbons here. And we're going to really enjoy sipping on this. Stephen is also, when we finish this glass, Stephen, what is that other bourbon we're going to try here in a little bit as well?
Well, this one is a Calumet Farms. It's their single rack black. Obviously, they put a little water in it. Looks like to me it's 96.2 proof. looks like it's a single barrel bourbon night. No, batch size 19 barrels. So I don't really know if they blended or not. But I've had just a little bit of it. It's very, very nice. 74% corn, 18% rye, 8% malted barley. So pretty full body bourbon.
Yeah, show that to the camera for me.
And usually you can find. I wanted to pick a bourbon that maybe not everybody's had.
Yeah.
But that you can find. You know, bourbon's become this. I don't know, kind of an in thing. You know,
Yeah.
Used to be you just went and bought a bottle of Weller's off the shelf. And maybe you mixed it with Coke. Now you know, they got it like under a spotlight, you know, in the middle of the store. Or
Yeah, and speaking of under the spotlight, so we were talking downstairs a little bit before we started the podcast, and you were telling me about this bourbon, which I think has a really funny name, Dogfather.
Yes.
This Dogfather bourbon, and you explained it. Explain to me, it's a really good bourbon, and then
one
I'll.
of the better ones I've drank, honestly, and I've drank, you know, I've been on the high end of the bourbons, and you don't have to spend a tremendous amount on bourbon, although this one's not cheap. But to get a really good bourbon, you know, you $20 up, really, if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's palate's different, and my palate changes
Oh,
as
yeah.
time goes on. Some days there's two. I have 3 decanters, and honestly, I keep two bourbons in each one. I keep 2 bourbons in the 3 decanters.
Yeah.
I have a Angel's Envy because that's just easy to drink,
Yes.
and you probably had it on here. I don't know.
Yeah, we had Angel's Envy on there.
And then the other one is the Double Oak by who makes the Double Oak?
I've got a couple different oak ones in my head when you said double oak. And I'm trying to
Woodford Reserve. Sorry.
Oh,
Just
Woodford.
left me for a second.
There we go.
Anyway, Woodford Reserve Double Oak, and that's actually one of my go-tos.
Yeah, Woodford double oak is really good.
I like that. I like the char taste of it.
So what was funny about the story about the Dogfather is, I was like, man, yeah, if it's that good, I'm gonna get me a bottle and we're gonna try it on the podcast. And Steven said, you might want to think about that.
Well, you
for a
said
minute.
some, so
I'm going to get some. I'm going to,
and I was thinking multiple bottles. And
yeah. And so obviously, if I'm going to buy one for the podcast, I'm going to probably buy one for the house, and
right.
And then you were like, you politely stated you might want to think through that a little bit. And I was like, why? How much is it? And then you shared it $600 a bottle.
Yeah.
So if you want to go try Dogfather, be prepared to spend a little bit of coin to get that.
I think if you're looking for a celebratory situation, and you know where the Pappies got so hard to find,
Mm-hmm.
I would, if somebody put that down in front of me, for whatever reason,
and
said, hey, this is, now knowing what I know about it, I'd be like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because it really is good bourbon too. It's got, it's pretty full bodied. It's got a lot going on. I mean, you can taste a lot of different things in it, and it's one of the better bourbons I've drank for a long time.
Yeah. I will tell you this. Steve was nice enough to show me his bourbon cabinet. And I'm going to say it's his one of many locations for bourbon. The bourbon cabinet had lots of different bourbons in there, lots of really good high-end bourbons in there. And then we go downstairs to look at a few things, and when we're down there, I notice there's another nice selection of bourbons down there as well. So when I say Steven's a lot more of a bourbon word slipped my mind. Yeah. Entrepreneur keeps coming in my mind instead of a connoisseur. Yep. Bourbon connoisseur. Steven's a lot more of a bourbon connoisseur than I am. And I really enjoy talking to Steven about bourbons. And every time you come down and hunt with us, you have a tendency to bring a different bottle. One of the first ones you brought down was Full Curl.
Yep.
Which Wes Spinks had on the show.
Yep.
Which is a really good, where you buy the bottle and it goes to...
10% of it goes to the Wild Sheep Foundation, I believe. If I remember.
Yeah, it goes to the Wild Sheep Foundation. And speaking of that, I want to talk about 2 different things real quick. The first thing I want to talk about is when I was thinking of the phrase give back, right? So when you buy this bottle, 10% goes to the Wild Sheep Foundation. You created and started a wonderful foundation of camo adventures. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. I mean, we could. It's a rabbit hole, kind of, but
Yeah, that's fine. Go down it.
So I lost my father in '07, and he was my mentor and my best friend, and I mean, even my mom was worried about how I was going to take it.
Yeah.
Not alone myself, but she even actually openly expressed that to me. And, you know, anyway, it is what it is. I mean, it's part of life, and so that week we had to get ready for arrangements and all this, and man, I was just trying to find myself, and I didn't know if I could. And I consider myself to be a fairly strong person, mentally, physically, pretty much all the way around, and I was really searching. And my mother got a call from the military. He was in the military, clear back before they were married, and they wanted to know if they could come and do, I believe it was a 13-gun salute. I think it was a 7-gun salute.
Okay.
And I was like, wow. For some reason, it just caught me. I wasn't in the military. Matter of fact, my dad's the only person in our family that I think has been in the military. And he never really spoke much about it, a little bit, but not a lot. And anyway, they came and they did the salute. And before they did the salute, they talked about how the shots heard all the way, I think, into heaven, and how everything that's connected to it. And after the service was over, I picked up all the casings, all the blanks. And I said, man, I've got to get back. And obviously I'm on the show. We talk about entrepreneurial pursuit or spirit or whatever. Well, I've had a decent run, and I thought, I go to bed every night. I got people who are protecting me who don't even know my name, and they're spilling their blood for it. And I said, I have to give back. And so I started searching. My wife and I want to make sure she's in this because she was instrumental in starting this. She supported me all the way, not only supported me, pushed me to get people. And literally we flew them into the house here, and we took them hunting right here locally. And just had a blast. And when it was all over, we were taking a gentleman back to the airport. He's kind of become famous now. His name's Shiloh Harris, and he was still pretty much a mess. I mean, he'd been blown up, and most of his face was still not, it was gone, quite frankly. He didn't have any ears. And I walked into that airport, I mean, on guard, like, if somebody says something,
Yeah.
a little bit wound up. Anyway, got him on the airplane, and come walking out, and my wife, I mean, she was a mess. And I'm like, you okay? And she's like, I don't know who got the most out of this. I mean, we were trying to get back, and we got so much for this. And so, anyway, long and short was, we got a letter from, I think, a representative or governor or something like that. We made it to the newspaper, small town, so that kind of stuff gets out. And we decided to continue to do it, and a couple guys at work would like start giving me money, saying, hey, isn't this the kind of the time of year you take people hunting? And it just kind of took off. From there, we got to know Wes.
Yep.
We went down. He had a ranch, and he was looking for somebody to maybe take the hunting rights. He was willing to give those up, lease them to us. So we did that. Well, I gave up my ability to hunt, my right to hunt, as long as the veterans could come on whatever day, kind of the end of the hunt after everybody was done and stuff. I said, look, if we can bring them down. So I did that. Some of the guys that was in our little club we formed to get this lease off the ground, plus Wes, were like, whoa, we want to help. And then they're like, I'm not the most organized guy, even though I run several businesses and do all that. I have people who help me with that.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Oh, trust me, I understand
so
that
you know
side.
that deal. So they keep, I'm the big picture guy. Kind of still am in this situation, and so they took off with it, and we become a 501c3, I believe, non-profit organization. I came up with the name Camo. That's K-A-M-O, and it's Kansas, Missouri. And the reason I did it is I wanted it to be local, kind of a grassroots, organic thing where everybody helps their their local people first. And I mean, we have people from Texas and all over the country come in. But the thing was, I think if everybody helps their own, then there's a lot less need, hopefully, that goes on. So long and short is, yeah, it's growing, and now it's got endowments and that kind of stuff. My whole goal for the whole thing, the whole time, I want them to come in. I don't want any pressure. I don't want them to feel like they have to wear a special T-shirt or talk a certain way. It's just to say thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I've got some stories. I went and drove an hour round trip to buy one guy 2 things of M&M cookies because somebody ate all the M&M cookies while he was in the shower. It was my chance to make his weekend, right?
Oh, yeah. And now I'm sure it did.
It did. And I said, if this makes your weekend, that's what I do. Jumped in the car, never questioned it. Went and got two. Actually, I think I got more than 2 because I wanted to make sure I didn't have to do it again. But anyway, I got the cookies, brought them back, and that's really, truly, you know, I just want to be the water boy, honestly. I mean, you eat, whatever, go lay on the couch, I'll clean up, whatever.
So the interesting thing is a lot of people, when they think about veterans, the immediate thing that comes to most people, I'm going to say me, I'm going to pick on me. So the immediate thing that comes to my mind is men. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's just right, wrong, or indifferent. That just came. So I had the opportunity to talk with your wife a little bit before, and she, like you said, is extremely instrumental in camo. And their deer hunt this year is 100% women veterans.
Yep.
Which I'll be honest, when she said it took me back, but it didn't take me back.
Right.
It was one of those things that I was like, oh, I'm so ignorant. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And then I was really. Then we had a good conversation, and she's going to be guiding through that too. Yep. So it really is family oriented. And here's the most amazing thing to me. Okay, and it really hit home to me about what you guys do. So, I'm president of Pheasants Forever in Reno County, so on and so forth. So, Pheasants Forever pays CEOs, they pay advertising, they pay for, and they pay themselves through the donations of people. 100%, that's how they pay themselves.
Right.
They do great things, not knocking what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But what I am super impressed by is camo pays nobody.
Yeah.
100% of your proceeds, 100% of the money that comes in goes strictly to the veterans.
Yeah, we try to focus everything that way. It used to be, we've had the question a lot, and you know how much of the proceeds go to the veterans, and sometimes it's been over 100%. We've had to pass the hat, especially early years, and that was what it was all about. I mean, you know, the first year we flew everybody in, just my wife and I, and one of them didn't have a gun, I think, so we made that happen. Spotting scope, a rangefinder, just different things. All their clothes. Second year, when I took them down to the ranch the first time, this is the first time it was like multiple people, and I don't remember how many. It was 5 or 6. I called the local Bass Pro Shops, and I did that just to let them know, hey, we're coming. If you want to do something, you know.
This would be a good time.
Yeah, we're going to be there because we had to buy the licenses. Mm-hmm. So anyway, they landed. It's like herding cats. I had no idea. They were all cavalry, but they didn't actually know each other. I didn't know. Again, I'm not a military guy, so they all had their cowboy hats on with the 2 little gold things up front. I'm sorry, military people. I know you'll make fun of me because I don't know what it's all called. But
you're fine.
But anyway, I put them in, and I got in the pickup, and we loaded the whole damn back of the pickup full of guns and suitcases and luggage. And well, it's November in Missouri, and most of them have like short socks and shorts, and so I'm pretty, pretty intuitive on what's going on. So I'm like, Hunter's Orange, we mentioned it, coats, I've got a jacket, so off to, luckily we're going to Bass Pro, so I was kind of making mental note.
Yeah.
Anyway, we get there, make the guy at the front, because I had a pickup in order to get everything in, and which that thing was full. I don't know if we had a ratchet strap down, but it was completely full. These guys were well armed, just not with the right stuff. So anyway, we pulled up. I parked up front. the guy at the door, the greeter, was really nice. He kept an eye. Matter of fact, they ended up calling me, and the manager had us drive the pickup around behind. Just because there was guns in the back and stuff, and I didn't want anything to happen to those guys' stuff. And anyway, long and short is they're kind of just looking at me, and I just pushed them a cart and said, "You go get what you need." And so they did. And at first, they're kind of hesitant, and I'm like, they're like looking at the socks if they're $4.99 or $12.99 or whatever. And I just said, "Do you not have socks?" And so I just would grab. And eventually, this cart became 2 carts, and then we had to get boots. And then they started realizing it, so then they were starting to get kind of blingy stuff. And anyway, we got done, and we got everybody checked out. And I thought it was kind of cool because at the end, they gave me the military discount, and I almost didn't know if I wanted to take it. If you want to know, because I was like, I'm not military, and I don't want to be, no way do I want that to ever come across as anything different, And
no, I think what they were saying is, we know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It isn't, here, take this and shh. No, they're saying, this is what you're doing. This is why we're giving this.
And that's
to you.
what I knew. That's what they're saying. But still, for me, it was even tough. But I did do it, and then the lady who I'd called and told, she all of a sudden somebody come up, tapped me on the shoulder or whatever, said something, I'm like, she goes, "You're that guy?" I said, "Yep." She goes, "Let us know next year." And they've been fairly instrumental or helping us for the last, I don't know if they still are involved or not, but they did good stuff for a while for us. And that's truly how the whole thing has grown. It's just, Bill got involved, and I know you know Bill.
Yeah, I know Bill. Good guy.
And Bill's an institutional investment guy, I believe. He does some of our investing for us and stuff like that. He's kind of he's real structured, right?
Yeah.
Everything's got to be written down and everything. And so he's been instrumental in growing this thing to the next level. Dave Hawbine and Dave's a guy that he's a landowner, and I don't know how many acres he owns, but he gives us full access. And there's some times when, these people aren't the most experienced hunters. So, there's a few things every once in a while you're like, "Dave, sorry about that. I know you didn't maybe want certain deer taken or whatever." And, we did our best. But everybody understands, just the way it is. And that's how that whole weekend, it was that weekend after we got everybody done and they were headed down and the story started and that's what I liked. They started opening up.
Yep.
Some of them chewed the same dirt together, as they say, and this stuff and everything. And we get down there. I have 6 or 8 plates and forks from 3 different houses because we just kind of thrown stuff together originally down there. I didn't really have anything to serve all this food with. I'd stopped and got all this food. We had a way to cook it. It was kind of, but we all made it through, and we had a great time. And after that, it just took off. And so that was. I don't know, was it 10 years ago, I think now? Or something like that. No, it would have been more than that, because it would have been 2008. So we're working on, I think camo itself's 10 or 11 or 12 years old, but the camo idea is probably 14, 15 now.
I'm going to say this, that we, CQ Game Birds, and Wes and you've been down with us several times, and Wes has been down with us several times. And we were approached to do some of that. We didn't hesitate.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah. So we have, at the end of this month, I believe Wes sent me 6. We have 6 veterans coming down for an upland game hunt. And I just hired a waterfowl guy. So next year, we're going to do half-day waterfowl and half-day upland game.
Which is awesome.
For you guys. We're looking forward to it. If you think about all the things you can give to veterans, hand over fist.
I actually have stated this to the veterans, to the guys that have came down. I'm selfish. I've got 4 kids. I don't want to see my kids over there. I had one that went. But honestly, and I feel really guilty about that, because these kids are over there fighting for people who they're obviously it's the greatest country in the world, right?
Yes.
And it's an all-volunteer army. They're not being
forced
to go do this.
No.
They're doing this because it's the greatest country in the world. And I have nothing but pure admiration for those guys. I mean, like I said, they come there. I don't care if they hunt or not. I don't care if they get up or not. When you know, when the lights get on, and there's a lot of times I don't go to bed till 3 a.m. and I'm up till 3 a.m. and I'm up at 4 a.m. starting breakfast. There's been some times I haven't slept, and my wife can see it when I come home, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm cleaning up whatever's left over, and you know, some nights it gets a little late and a little
different.
wild, but yeah,
Yep.
definitely. You know, there's some
Opportunities.
yeah going on. So I'll go in and shake their bed a little bit. You know, hey man, it's time to go hunting. If they want to get up, if they don't, breakfast is still there whenever they get up. And if they get up at 9 o'clock and they want to go hunting, by gosh, they're going hunting then. And if they get up at 5 a.m. and they want to hunt till 5:30 p.m. or whatever, you know, last shooting light is, that's what we're going to do. We got plenty of guides. Again, it's all volunteer, and everybody there knows what they're doing, and they all know the lay of the land. And so it's just such a great time. And again, it's not anything. Have you been to the house out there, Wes's place?
No, I haven't yet.
You know, it's just a little farmhouse. And,
Yeah.
You know, there's no, nothing fancy, and that's how we don't want it any different. You
No.
know, we love the way it is. So.
Well, hopefully next year, you might end up having to stay somewhere a little fancier.
Well, that'd be all right too. We can do that. We can do that.
We might be able to, if things work
Right.
the way
That'd
we
be
plan.
awesome. Yeah.
So the next thing I'd like to talk about is, so my understanding is, what was your job before you started your large truck company?
Well, I went to college to be a social worker, and so I had a degree in
Hold on, stop.
social work.
Social worker.
Yeah, so social work. I guess the best way. I was a case manager, I think was actually my job.
Wow, I would have never in a million years guessed that.
Yep, that's what I did. I wore tie-dye T-shirts and cut-off jean shorts and carried a briefcase and worked in the inner city, primarily inner city. You know, the projects and places like that. Worked with the homeless people and people with chronic and persistent mentally ill people, schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. I don't think they call it affective disorder. Maybe now, I don't really know. I still remember some of the DSM diagnostic and statistical manual nomenclature and classifications and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I spent 7 years doing that, and it probably fit me better than I fit it. Maybe would be the way to say it.
Yeah.
You know, just
didn't work the way you thought it would.
a lot of bureaucracy, and
Yeah.
I'm just not a bureaucratic style guy. I mean, you know, if there's a problem, that happens often. If you're going to complain, then have a solution. And
Yeah.
I felt like, you know, and this is not a knock on the industry, just a lot of complaining, not a lot of solving, and
That drives me crazy.
you know, it was just hard for me to take. And you know, I really wanted to see honestly, the best social worker in the world, I guess, would be to work yourself out of a job, and I felt like a lot of people weren't really there to do that. Now realizing with the mentally ill, you're not going to do that. I mean, it's a true something's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I had people I had two guys in the men's group one day. And I knew they were not enjoying each other's company, and I had to figure it out. Well, they were both I guess what's termed as a grandiose delusion. They both thought they were Jesus Christ, and they were smart enough to know that there's only one Jesus, and so
It didn't work.
we called a reality check. So they reality checked each other. They realized that one of them wasn't Jesus Christ, and so just, I mean, purely, you know, those kind of issues that we dealt with, and so it was a great time, you know. But yeah, it didn't fit. So I may have told you the story. I had trash man envy. Walked out of my house one day and got ready to get in my car, and you know, not making very much money. And the trash man's throwing the trash in the back of the back of the truck. Put back, you know, the trash barrel back down, and off they went. And I'm thinking, you know, that guy makes more money than I do, which is okay.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to make less money. I just needed to make more, and that was just something that I told myself then. And so I don't this might trump a little bit, so you can just file it for later. But I actually literally laid in bed one night and said, I want to make 6 figures in it 1 year, and that was my goal. And so about 2 weeks later, I quit, and everybody asked me what I was going to do, and I had no idea. So I ended up actually working on a construction job for a while, making more money than I was making, so it really didn't matter. Right? I took a raise and had a lot less pressure, and then just kind of worked it from there. And had a chance to go pro on the construction side, but I was going to be traveling. I called my dad, who was into trucks, and I went to work just selling trucks. Is how it started. Just kind of went from there.
I'm going to tell you what. In my mind, you achieved what a lot of us. So let me restart that statement. So if we look at and I'm going to say your social worker job was a cubicle job.
Actually, it was out in the field. It was a community.
Okay.
I'd visit them in their homes.
Okay. It's 9 to 5 job.
In the community. Yep.
Yeah, 9 to 5er.
Yep.
So it's a 9 to 5er job. So a lot of these people that have these 9 to 5 jobs despise their job, hate their job, but they feel trapped. They go to work every day. They're like, I want to do something different. I want to do this. I have this passion, but that's not what I'm doing. And you turned your life around using an entrepreneur spirit and drove and really worked. You every time I see you, you're working. And it's very encouraging to me to watch someone with the personality, the drive, the passion, like I have, to push and push and push and make it. It really does. And I think anybody watching or listening to this should really look at themselves and say, am I doing what I want to do? And if I'm not, what can I do to improve it? Now, keep in mind, and I think you'll attest to this, it ain't an easy road. It's a lot of work to get to a extreme level. And you I would say you're in an extreme level, in my opinion. You make good money. You very well support your family. According to I came in your home, and I looked at your wife and I said, you have a very beautiful home. She said, well, you need to thank the tornado for that.
Right.
And we'll get into that if you want to later. But
right.
But at the same time, I have a rough feeling what you make, but you live very modest. This is a very nice, modest home.
Yeah.
But people that meet you, in my opinion, because of I really like this about you a lot. Your modest personality. They would never know that you have the level of business that you do have. And I appreciate you being the down-to-earth human being that you are. And with that being said, I ask everybody this. I want your funniest hunting fishing story and your most memorable hunting and fishing story. It can be either hunting, fishing, outdoors, something. So the funniest is self-explanatory. Mm-hmm. But when I mean your most memorable, what is the thing that pops in your head first? The thing that moved you personally the most?
Ooh, those are actually big questions for me because my whole life is somewhat built around hunting.
Yes. And that's the great thing about this question,
yeah,
because
my family and hunting, and of course,
yes.
Jesus and those
yeah.
are, the church.
So before we get there, so he said something that I think we all should think about. Family, hunting, fishing, Jesus first. Right. Was your exact statement.
Yep.
And the reason I say that is because you were looking down a little bit when you said it, and it wasn't because he was trying to hide what he was saying. It's just a lot of us, when we start to think, I don't know about you. Sometimes I have to look away from the person I'm talking to just to get my thoughts right. And you have the Bible right here with us.
Yeah, actually, a friend, my good hunting buddy, sent me that one, and
Yeah.
it's good because it's got a lot of explanations in there, so it
Yeah.
helps guys like me to figure out what's really going on.
Helps-
right?
helps the guy-
The light's on sometimes it's
Yeah.
kind of dim, so
Click,
it's nice
click.
to lit up, or at least you can get to the bottom of it. But so this is all going to kind of drift together, I think. I mean, I've been blessed in my life, and I've been blessed in a lot of ways, and so that's part of the whole scenario here. And I've had the opportunity to hunt a lot of places. Alaska's truly stole my heart. I mean, there's no other way to put it. We actually have another home in Alaska, and in 2015, I think. 2014, I drew a moose tag. Really was just starting to figure it out. Didn't shoot a moose. Got on some pretty good moose. Didn't kill one. Probably could have. Actually had one at 20 yards. Just you had to be 50 inches or 4 brow tines. He definitely didn't have 4 brow tines because I could have touched him. Was he 50? Probably. But you don't ground check him. You can't turn him back. So
Yeah.
And I'm all about hunting. I'm not. I mean, killing is absolutely a part of the hunt. So. But the hunt, to me, I would rather shoot the moose on the 10th day than the first day every time. Even though sometimes there's all the pressure of work and everything, and you're like, man, if I could get in and get out and get in and get out, it'd be nice. And then I sit down and say, yeah, but wow, I spent all year preparing for this.
Yeah.
I have a fairly regimented workout routine
Oh,
to
yes.
stay in shape, so I can do the things I want to do. Anyway, I'm flying back in, and the pilot's like, I didn't know this. He says, I'm an outfitter. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He goes, so he says, do you have your grizzly? They kind of talk about things like it's one at a time. Well, luckily I've been blessed enough that I could do it every year if I want.
Yeah.
But sometimes one's enough, I've realized. And so anyway, I'm like, no, I don't. And he talked about sheep and moose and all this. And so, he told me how much a grizzly hunt was. I'm like, wow, that's actually less than I thought it would be. And so I said, what does your schedule look like next spring? And he said, we're good. And I said, all right, let's do it. So I did a grizzly hunt. And so I get there next spring. And the funny thing was, we bought the house, and I hadn't paid for it yet because I bought it I wanted to inspect it. Well, I had the inspectors out there. They just happened to show up the day I was flying in. So this is going to be a while.
No, that's fine. Go.
Hope everybody's got some time.
We've got time.
All right. So anyway, flying into Anchorage, I get stuck in Seattle for the night. I sleep on the floor, which, by the way, the guy still vacuums right up to the side of your head as you're laying there. And I get there, guide picks me up, and he's like, all right, we got to go, plane's going to, because you're just flying out in a bush plane then, right? So there's not really there is kind of a schedule, but if you're not there, he's going to fly somebody else in as long as you don't get there too late and everything keeps working. He'll just weave you in the flight schedule. So I'm like, I just bought a house here. He's like, you bought a house here? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And I said, it's kind of on the way. Do you mind if we stop by? Because I said the last time I looked at it was about a year ago, and I had to go through foreclosure and all this stuff. And it's a long story, but anyway, I ended up buying it and I said, I don't really remember what it looks like. So if you don't mind, could we just stop by and take a look at it? And he's like, all right, sure. So we get there, and he goes, if you don't mind, obviously I'm a guide, but I'm also a contractor on the off season. So he says, I'll look through it if you'd like and give you my opinion. That way you get the inspectors. Anyway, he looked through it, and he's like, wow, this guy. And I found out it was this guy's dream home, him and his wife, and then something happened. They got a divorce, and that's how the house hit the market. So we just kind of hit it off, him and I. And we go up, and you saw the bear picture.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. I'm going to be honest. There is not much in life that makes me go, no, when it comes to hunting, okay? This bear picture, the bear's paw is, so your hand's up next to the paw, and to me, it looks like 3 of your hands next to this grizzly bear's paw, and I think its claws are longer than your fingers.
Yeah, it's big. It was a good bear, and we shot him. Not really in big bear country. I mean, kind of in a, up in the mountains. And so when we saw him, it's kind of funny because I saw him. There were some fires going on, and it got kind of smoky, and the animals were kind of laid down. And anyway, we shoot this bear, and him and I just kind of hit it. He had a brand new backpack, and so he had to put this bear hide in his backpack. And have you met Ray?
No, I haven't yet.
He's 5'6", 7". Ray, forgive me if you're taller than that. Just sinew though. I mean, he's been a hunting guide since high school, right?
Just a brick.
And he's 50s now, mid-50s.
Oh, wow.
This dude is just stout. And so he's bound and determined. And the hide with the skull in is probably, it's not, I mean, in Alaska sense, he's probably 80 pounds, 90 pounds. It wasn't horribly heavy, but he had him all shoved in his pack and was trying to get it all figured out, and he did. And I thought he was going to face plant. So anyway, I gave him a hard time because we really killed the bear about half a mile from the tent, which was kind of cool. And it was there at that time of year. It was May, so it doesn't really get dark. It was midnight, I think, we got back and made some steaks. We just kind of hit it off. And so anyway, I put in every year for these are limited draws: the moose, the sheep, caribou. Next year I draw sheep tag. Maybe I'd already drawn it and knew that. I don't remember, but anyway. So I get with Mike, and I said, Mike, this, I'm hunting in your, but I'd really like to have Ray if he could do it. And Ray had already. So anyway, we hunt with Ray. And so second or third day in, I killed this sheep. And I mean, it's one of the few things in life. It just blows me away. It just totally. It's 60 degrees probably, no wind, sun's out. We killed this thing at 8 in the morning. We're down to camp by 2 o'clock. Again, it's probably 3/4 mile from camp, unfortunately, straight up, but it's not, not ugly. I mean, I promise you, it's not ugly. Get down. I'm sitting there thinking about, I've read all the Jack O'Connor stories, all these books, Sports and Field, and Outdoor Life, and everything. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm just kind of in awe, and I'm just kind of sitting around. And there's no trees up there, so he's got all these little willows, and he's kind of making a little fire. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I wonder what's going on there, He starts doing skewers, and I'm like, oh, Lord, this is going to be so awesome. So he just gets the meat out, out of a little bag, starts cutting it on a rock, starts cutting out these little slices. We just start skewering meat and just eating it over the fire.
Oh, that would be so amazing.
And at that point, I thought, you know what? It doesn't really matter how much this costs because that's not important to me compared to what I just got out of this. And then I'm sitting there thinking, I just drew a sheep tag that 2 people out of probably 300 or 400 people put in every year to get, and it's just a random drawing. There's no point system or anything in Alaska. And I can't even put in for the next year, at least in that unit. I'd have to put in a different unit. So on the way home, I don't really scheme it up. I'm like, man, I hope my wife will put in.
Yeah.
So we get 2 chances to draw, and I don't really care if she'll just go and set in camp. We can walk around together a little bit, but at least maybe one will walk through camp. She can shoot it. At least we're sheep hunting. Something. I don't really know. So anyway, I say, baby, let's put in. I'll be danged if she doesn't draw sheep, moose, caribou. No, not the. I don't know if she drew the caribou. Sheep, moose, and goat for sure on the first year. And these are very limited. Well, the moose is probably 10%. The sheep and the goat are less than 1%. And she draws them on the first year. Yeah, actually, I'm in a local restaurant with my wife at lunch, and we know what day the draws come out. I already checked. They hadn't come out yet. They must come out about a half hour later because Ray's calling me, and he's on the phone. I'm trying to order barbecue at the local barbecue joint. And I'm like, hey, man, I got to call you back. He's like, hey, man, call me right back. I'm like, all right. So I called him back. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, your wife drew a sheep tag. I'm like, what? So anyway, I start pulling up the draws, and I'm like, well, she drew a moose tag. She drew a moose tag too? He hadn't even looked that far. And I'm like, well, Ray, she drew a goat tag as well. He's like, no way. So anyway, we fly out. We spend 21 days in the bush.
Oh, 21 days.
Yeah, without coming out. So it was our first time you don't shower. You don't really change your clothes. You don't really do anything. It's just a whole different world out there, and it's so cool. But you can take a little bath in the stream. You get a little numb, But so I don't know if this is really funny or just just part of how it is when you're hunting. First day we're out, we're hunting pretty hard. We climb up probably 1,000-foot vertical. He's got to take we have Ray the guide, and we have Elias, the backpacker extraordinaire, as we call him. He's a guide now, but he was 17 years old at the time, and he's got to put his ice axe in the side of the mountain that we're sitting on to hold my pack, because for some reason it won't stay on the side of the mountain, and I mean, you wouldn't want to lose. If you started to roll there, you'd be rolling for the rest of your life. As in other words, you'd be done. And it's fairly steep and anything, and you know, you just kind of have that intuition. And so all of a sudden, my wife's actually kind of straddling me back up above me, and she's just quiet. And I'm like, "Hon, you okay?" She's like, she kind of whimpers. Well, you know I'm afraid of heights. I'm like, oh my goodness, I never really thought about it. She won't usually change the light bulb in the house on the ladder. I got to do it. I never really thought about that.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, we just got started. I mean, it doesn't even get good at that. I mean, you're not even in what they call the nasties yet. You know, you're not in the cathedrals and the talus and the really,
yeah,
where your stomach comes up in your innards when you look down, knowing that it's 1,000-foot.
Straight.
You don't roll. Yeah, you fall for the rest of your life. There, they say. So.
Wow.
So anyway, I guess not really comical, but it was kind of odd, that I had my wife out there sheep hunting and she's afraid of heights, and I'm like, wow.
And so a lot of people, just to clarify, a lot of people may not understand. I do, because I've had the privilege of listening to some of your sheep hunting stories, right? Mm-hmm. Explain to the people on the podcast what Alaskan sheep hunting. So I'm going to summarize and then I'm going to let you take over.
Sure.
So there's a chance you're going to be on one mountain shooting a sheep on another mountain.
Could, yeah.
Okay. Go from there. To describe why the elevation and where the sheep are located normally found.
I just got done with the stone sheep hunt, as you know, and those sheep was different. We were looking down. We climbed we climb up and then look down with the dull sheep. For whatever the difference is, they tend to hang out really high, at least most of them. Occasionally you'll see them underneath you. And the goal is always to get over the top of them. They seem to be less wary once you're above them. But, as a guide, you want to get to within 200 yards. And as I mentioned earlier, I am a registered Alaskan, actually, assistant guide. I'll be able to do a full-time guide or become a regular guide next year if I so choose. Being an assistant guide, the only difference is I can't sign any of the contracts. I'm just a hired hand, and I really don't mind that, if you want to know, because I just love it. But the true goal is to get them within 200 yards if you can. Most guys, zero the rifles 1.5 inches, 2 inches high for a 200-yard point blank, dead on shot, and they can figure it out from there. 7, 8, 9 inches low at 300, and they're on up. I do a lot of shooting, and sometimes you can't tell when I'm out there hunting, but I do my best.
Sometimes you can't tell.
You would think, but it's hard to emulate all the different scenarios you run into on hunting, and so that's actually one of my goals next year, is to be able to hit anything from to about 500, 600 yards off of a pack or off of a bipod, tripod situation, depending on how I have it. Maybe further, but I shoot to 1,000 yards on a regular basis on the side of my house, and But I want to get them within 200 yards, and they're pretty zeroed in, and that allows you a little bit of an opportunity of a flinch or whatever. You still got, you get a minute of sheep. You're probably 12 inch square or something like that. You're up so high that if you get a good bullet into them, they're not going to go anywhere usually. It might be a little bit of a rodeo to chase them down, but and that's not your goal. But as a guide, these guys, they spend up to, desert and a stone sheep is over $70,000 a hunt now.
Yeah.
So, and the adult sheeps are $25,000. Your goal is to try to help get a sheep anything you can safely. And that's an important thing. And so, but sometimes you have to cross canyon, and if you do, you do have to be prepared to get into the nasties. And honestly, we'll probably go there eventually. This year was the first year I was actually on a sheep hunt where a sheep was taken and we couldn't get to it. It ran about 200 yards, and the 200 yards it ran to, we actually sent a guy in that said he could climb up about anything, and with ropes and the whole, I mean, this is a mountaineer guy, and he got there and said, can't get it, can't do it, I can't get up in there. I don't know how she got there. It was actually a friend of mine that took the sheep, and when we shot it, it was 100% in a valley, and it ran across just these spires and went up into this thing, and it doesn't look like anything major, and it's 400 to 1,000 foot all the way around it, and it was like, wow. The sheep probably knew that it was like an area to get to for safety. Maybe, I don't know. However, it ran up over those hills with 3 legs. I have no idea, because I've been hunting a lot, and we couldn't figure it out. You know, and you talk about just emotionally devastating. But I've always heard about it, never had it happen. And and I thought, well, maybe I'm still from Kansas. Maybe I just don't understand the technical part. Somebody can get in there. Now, if they sent in a guy that said he could crawl up anything, he's a rock climber and all that, and he said, there's just no way to get to it.
Man.
So, anyway, to get back to then, my most
memorable
favorite is, it's all part of the same hunt. I mean, it's just, first and foremost, I get a lot of static from some people about, my favorite hunting partner is my wife. And there's certain fringe benefits that come with it, obviously, when you're in camp, and it makes things awesome. We actually went ahead and bought a double bag now, and she doesn't hold body heat probably as well as me, and I still, now that I've thinned down a little bit, it's definitely different for me. I'm sleeping in a warmer bag and stuff now, but so we're on this 21-day hunt. First day we take the grizzly bear. Got lucky. First day of hunting, you can't hunt Alaska the same day you fly, so it's the next day, but we walk out. We do a pretty big walk. Matter of fact, it's the day she said she was afraid of heights, and wow, so we're in about, I think it was day 7 of what we were going to spend about 9 or 10 days up in sheep country, and then after that we were going to go down, not very far, about 5 miles, probably 3 to 5, via air. It'd be an all-day walk. And I could tell Ray's pushing now. I mean, we've wore out all the sheep pretty close. We haven't found anything that we want to take. And so we get in about 6 miles from camp, and we get on a good sheep. And this sheep's out on a kind of a rock ledge, and so there's 4 of us. And so I'm like, Ray, you and Kim, my wife, go get this sheep. I don't want 4 people trying to go get this sheep. It's not, for me, it's not egotistical. I want her to get an opportunity to get this sheep. Well, she ends up getting it done, and this sheep falls probably 1,500 foot off the wrong side of the mountain. And this is what made me think in Colorado we can get to this sheep, because we start going down. She actually slips, and I thought I was going to lose her at one point. She was hanging by her fingertips on a piece of granite, and I think if she would have slipped, I don't think she'd have been with us today. I had actually worked down below her, which I was hoping if she was sliding by, I could grab her and hopefully arrest her fall. And Elias had got a hold of her hand, and she was trying to get up. And she gets pretty nervous around heights because of, her, she's afraid of them. Anyway, we get down, we get to the sheep at probably midnight. It's just starting to get dark. And that's the cool thing about Alaska. You show up in August, the first part of August, it's hard to get dark, and you're losing about 10 minutes of daylight a day. So in 7 days, you maybe lost over an hour, maybe I wouldn't say an hour and a half, but at least over an hour of daylight. It's noticeably different, right? By the end of September, it's way, way different. You're seeing maybe even the northern lights. Anyway, we get down there, and we find this sheep, and I'm looking at Ray because I've got enough hunting experience. I'm still pretty new in Alaska at the time. He's looking at me. We're not going home that night. So instantly, he looks at Elias, who's 17. He doesn't. I mean, he's just getting into it. And Ray's kind of just, you need to go over there and grab out a spot. And Elias is like, he has no idea what he's saying. And we're on I don't know, it's probably not 45 degrees, but it's a steep bank. And luckily, there's enough loose stuff, so he finds a bear den, luckily, where he kind of, I don't know if it's a den or a dig, but it's enough into the side of the mountain. Anyway, he digs it out, and so we have no water, very little food. He's a type 1 diabetic, Elias is. He doesn't have any insulin with him, which he's not really worried about, but we don't know if we have enough carbs for him. So we give all our food to him, which it was like a half of a sandwich bag anyway, full of food. I mean, we didn't plan on being that far in, that far. That far. And no water. And I'd give Kim my water about noon of that day because she had drank hers down, and hey, I'm pretty good usually about managing my water, and so I kind of know where I'm couldn't get to or can't get to. So we stay that night under the stars. They finally figured out the look in their eyes, and we tell the greatest hunting stories of all time, which is the one we just encountered.
Yeah.
And we talk about it over and over again, and we're all just sitting there laughing, and we had a fire going the best we could, and actually I bought a brand new, nice, beautiful, high-end, lightweight tarp that was going to cover us up that night, except for it rolled in the fire before we ever got it set up. So, so we just laid out under the stars, and I've done that a couple times since then. I sent you a picture of last time. Because,
beautiful pictures.
Guys tend to run out of juice a little bit, and we were 10 miles into a 14-mile day, and we didn't have 4 more miles in us between us. So we, I opted to just lay on the side of the mountain and just do the best we could, and if you manage it right, you can get through it. But that's my greatest hunt. I mean, just my whole time I spent with my wife for 21 days in there, and seeing her. She killed the moose the last day. Actually, I think day 9 of day 8, the wind come up. Mike couldn't get in to get us out, and these bulls had been coming into this meadow, and we'd had 2 near misses, and she killed it that day. And just, I mean, she come up with some of the great. So I'm just all about it. I'm just practical, right? I mean, the wind's blowing this way. I gotta make sure we're set up this. We're doing this. We're doing that. She's all about, look, did you see the flower, honey? Did you see those flowers? I'm like, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
This or that.
Yes.
And
she's experiencing life at the moment.
Yeah.
And you're doing what I would do. And it's like, okay, the wind's coming. You got to head this way. And she's like, you're missing life. Yep. You're missing the other experience.
She put a Facebook post out, which I'm not much of a Facebooker, but I still will go back and try to find it from time to time, because she's put all the pictures and kind of get little odd captions to each one, and her hunt looks so much different than mine. And hers was so much more memorable probably than mine, or so much more, I don't know how to put it, artistic than mine.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know I mentioned a little bit about. I asked her a little bit. I have a tendency to poke and prod before the podcast because I don't want you to know what I'm going to talk to you about. And I was asking her a little bit about, because I'd known she'd gone, right? And she shared a little bit. And I would say that one of the most memorable things that through all the conversations I've had in life, and I've been guiding hunts for pretty close to 20 years now. People taking their loved ones out, the person that means the most to them, or one of the people that mean the most to them, out hunting and fishing and doing the outdoor stuff like you and your wife in Alaska. Those are the memories that sear into people. I once in a while, I'll ask a single person, what is your most memorable hunt? And they'll tell me or someone with real young kids yet, or a wife that doesn't hunt. They'll tell me about the big animal they harvested.
Right.
But most of the time, as soon as the kids get to a certain age, or if their wife hunts with them, I haven't heard very many stories about this was my most memorable, or it was always the biggest thing I shot was my most memorable. Very seldom do I hear that anymore. I hear that it was about the time I spent with my loved ones and how my loved one did in the hunting opportunity. And when you describe that, it really ties into what CQ Game Birds does as an organization. Is what we do is we try to create that memorable experience for people to come out and have that memory that's going to sear into them forever. Because I know you've brought your boy out and your wife, and you guys have stayed with us, and you guys have had some pretty awesome time. And you brought this really nice camera and caught some amazing pictures last year.
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't usually carry a gun on those hunts. Just because, I want everybody else to have that opportunity. Since I was a kid, I grew up in western Kansas. So we'd pheasant hunt every day after school. I mean, sports, I was a pretty decent athlete, and I even quit doing that just because I enjoyed, had a very good friend, the guy that I just went sheep hunting with. And, I'm with you 100%. I mean, talking to my kids now, my boy, my youngest son just graduated, and all of his memories. He's a hunter and a shooter. Actually, has become a very good shotgun shooter, and probably has a lot of potential to go further. And when I'll remember a lot of the stuff that but this is big stuff for them. And the cool thing is then you realize what kind of impact you've had, what kind of impact you've made. And it's, my daughter this year she shot her first deer at probably age 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe she shot this deer. And it was just, she was just all calm about it. And it is kind of a different, seeing how different personalities, and I do think it has something to do with your DNA. And actually, I think women are more patient and actually better students than men are. Men tend to be more egotistical, and they're going to show you, even though you're telling them and you've done it a lot, and you may not have the best way to do it, but it's a way that works. And even I took my wife, we couldn't make it to a long-range shooting school. It was kind of a guy was a Marine Scout sniper, and he offered these schools, and I couldn't ever make it. So I called him, and I said, what if I just paid you enough, like you had a class, and just me and my wife come out? He's like, absolutely. So we went out and did it. And he echoed that precisely. He's like, how long have you been shooting? I'm like, all my life. He's like, yeah. I mean, you're okay. How long has your wife been shooting? Not very long. She's pretty good. I can tell.
Yeah. She listened.
Yeah, and her follow through and everything was so much better than mine. I mean, it just truly was.
Yeah. So I'm going to have a little fun with the wife-husband situation here. I don't know about your wife, so I'm not going to imply anything, but I am going to ask questions. So if I try to teach my wife something, it doesn't go real great. But if I have someone else teach my wife, she's quite good. Similar. Okay. So women are great as long as the husband isn't trying to teach them.
Which is funny because she knows I'm a registered guide, and actually I treat her semi as a client when we're out. Last year we shot the biggest moose in the valley. It took probably 7 days, because, we blew the stock one day, and, it was interesting. And she would, if she was here, we'd both kind of, we giggle about it now, but, she did the right thing. I thought she did the wrong thing. She did the right thing. We got to 200 yards. She couldn't get the gun settled down. Honey, it's a moose. You're trying to shoot a car hood, truly 200 yards. She goes, I couldn't hold crosshairs on it. I could not do it. So I was a little miffed, and there's a kind of a thing in the guide world, and, if you feel like your client maybe is kind of starting to, butt up against you a little bit, you can take them on a little walk, and, I keep myself in pretty good physical shape, so I smoked her up the hill. I let her know, that I wanted her to know that we needed to stay as a team and stay together, and you can't have two people fighting in that. You can't have two chiefs, and whether it's right or wrong, the chief has to make that call. And so somehow we didn't blow that moose out. We got down there, the cows spotted us, they winded us. The bull knew something was up, but he's in love. He's got like 11 cows.
Yeah,
so he's in love. He's not. Wherever the cows goes, he's going. Luckily, they all went out across this. Which, realize now, when we hunt, it's all on foot. So when you're talking about a 1,600-pound animal that's going to be about 800 pounds of meat, and then you're going to have a skull, and which we didn't take we're going to Euro mount him, so it's just the horns and the head, probably another 60 pounds. So you're probably going to haul 800 to 900 pounds back to camp. Every step he takes away from camp sucks, and when they can cover 100 yards easily in probably 10 seconds, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're just walking, but they're walking way faster. Especially this is in the the tussocks and all the the soft tundra up there, and it's
like walking in sand.
It's hard walking, and so anyway, we blew him back across, and he went up on the other side of the mountain. I walked us back up to the other side of the mountain, probably, I don't know, it's a pretty good 600-700 foot climb. I wanted her to know that, let's just make sure that the communication's going one way, and then it can come back the other way. But we got to make sure it goes one way. We can't have this. And so, anyway, I'll be dang. I get up that next morning, and I'm out looking early. We're looking right from camp. It's a big valley, but I can usually see him from camp. He's not there. I thought, oh Lord, he's gone. I wait. About 8 o'clock, comes wandering down out of the hills. I see the cows first. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of cows. I wonder if that's him. Here he comes. And he goes right back to the exact same spot. So we go, and I look, and we get up on this hill, which is a little bit of a walk and a climb, and so I can tell we're synced up a little better, and we literally make a 800-yard stalk, and it probably turns into a 2.5 mile venture, because I take us totally out of the path and totally up the hill and totally into the brush, and I mean literally, and I carry my rangefinders are in my binos, and I'm a big believer in the best gear you can afford, so I buy the best because I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. And so we drop down to this creek drainage, and I know he's up on this hilltop, and every creek drainage I'll climb up and I look and I range him, and so I can range the trees. And I said, we're one cut away, and I'm gonna bring you up 300 yards from this bull, and we're gonna get you prepared. And it worked out so perfect. And the bad and the good thing was we killed it about a mile from camp, and it was all uphill, and it took 3 days to haul him out. But again, that's being with my wife, doing that, and just I actually at the end, if you'll ask me, there's a picture there because you can see the difference, and that's why I love her, because she carried all she could back, and I carried the rest.
Yeah.
And at the end of the thing, she's laying in the sleeping bag, big cheesy grin, and making a selfie, and then she's got me, and I'm over there holding my cup of coffee, and I'm just completely smoked.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, the first night we come up out of there, I probably carried a legit 140 to 160 pounds, and took about 2.5 hours probably to get up out of there. And I remember there was actually some guys that had flown in, and they'd flown in on top of us. Doesn't happen very often, but it didn't matter. We killed the moose. So I put my bag down, and he was trying to be helpful. It was his first time moose hunting. He was trying to get all the information. I'd give him everything he wanted. I just, you just got to go kind of dig them out.
Yeah.
And he tried to pick the bag up, and I didn't think he finally just drug the damn thing over, and he just kind of looked at me, and I'm like, man, if you've not been moose hunting, get ready, because there's no easy moose hunt.
Yeah. Unless
you tip him over on the strip, drag him out of the way. But anyway.
That's a lot of. I'll tell you what. So everybody understands what you do year in and year out to get. So you weren't this lean, mean fighting machine that I see sitting in front of me today. Right. There was a time when you were significantly heavier than what you are.
Yep.
So what is your exercise regimen to prep yourself to guide these Alaskan hunts?
I try to work out 6 days a week. Usually it's between 5 and 6, occasionally 7. I spend at least an hour every day on cardio, and then some other calisthenics, some dips and pull-ups and that kind of stuff. But primarily cardio is, in my opinion, I'm a believer in the cardio side. I think Greg McKell's his name. He used to be an adventure racer, and he's kind of the same thing. I was 280 pounds. I'm about 175 now, and I try to keep my VO2 max up. For some people, I don't. I know I'm probably getting in the weeds a little bit.
So hold on.
In the mid 50s.
Two things. You were at 280. You're at 175.
Yep.
It's pretty significant.
Yep.
And what is VO2 max?
That's exactly. It's your ability to, I think, either absorb oxygen or to expel oxygen, or it's how much
oxygen intake or
something. I know that as I've watched my VO2 max go up, my stamina under like a heavier heart rate is better. So
okay.
So I can run a 145-ish heart rate probably for half an hour to maybe an hour, and so I was just sheep hunting, and the biggest thing that came, and I actually told my friend this because he's in very good shape. He used to just throttle me through the mountains as I tried to just drag myself around, and I would watch on the steadier inclines. I'm going to say it about man, it's so hard to tell because when you're in the mountains, it's so much steeper than you think it is, but maybe a 10 or a 15% grade, maybe it was whatever. I could hear him still breathing harder, and I would be recovering. And I could tell that was a big key difference. A lot of guys call me talking about sheep hunting. They always want to know what sheep shape is. And so for me, being a numbers guy, I had to figure out what that meant because I really didn't know. And if they come to me and they say, I want to be in sheep shape, what does that mean? And I don't care if it's on a flat surface. If you can run 6 miles in an hour, you can usually walk through the mountains. That I know. That's a 10-minute mile for 6 miles. And that's when I could do that. I can run better than that now. But when I got there, I felt like I could, at the end of the day, I still had some left, because you some days you do a lot of miles and a lot of feet in elevation, a lot. And there's just no telling. You have to, as a guide, we're hoping you got one of those days in you. And that's the crazy thing about it.
Really?
2, if you're really good, and if you can go multiple days, that's awesome. We'll just take off, hopefully. And if I'm following you, that's even better because I've chased, you can't really chase them down, but I've walked into sheep numerous times. I've walked mountain ranges, through the peaks and down and through the valleys and back up. And so.
I think if I went with you, we could get up the mountain and just push me and let me roll down to the next one. Yeah. And then we'll get back.
I've had a few guys land and go, look at, because maybe we're even looking at sheep, and they'll be like, we got to go up there?
Yeah.
We're sure not coming down.
I'll tell you what, I would love to go with you one day, but I can tell you this right now. I need to get in a lot better shape than I am now.
Bike. That's where I started on a bicycle.
Yeah.
Go from there. Yeah.
I just started trying to get in shape. I try all the time, right? Because we guide upland game hunts, and so the day job is a desk, right? And so I'm in front of the desk for 8 to 12 hours a day, and then I go home, and then we're working on all our other businesses, which most of that is desk work. So I have to get out and work dogs, and then on top of that, dogs get in shape a lot faster than I do, and so then I jump on the treadmill, and every morning I get on and walk for X amount of time at about a 10 or 12 incline, just so I'm not, what I do isn't running, so I just walk. If I can walk and I can condition everything to carry the load that I am, I do pretty good, and I can typically keep up with most people. When I run into problems is when I've got to throw on those extra coveralls, and then there's 3 foot of snow, and I'm a short guy. Well, we don't get 3 foot of 6 to 8 inches of snow.
But also you got that,
and then you've got those coveralls, and you're lifting it. That's when a little fat short guy has some problems. Yep. But so the next thing, are you out there?
You want that one or this one?
Well, let's try that one.
Okay.
It looks like you still have a little in that glass, so. Yep, just a little bit. And what is this again?
It's the Calumet Farm, and they call it the Single Rack Black. I think they have several different versions. I don't know. It's 14 years old, so.
Well, I'm going to set that right there.
Did you want?
Just no ice. No, it's only 90 some proof. It's when it gets over 100. I really need to have a little bit of ice because it just gets pretty warm for me. Personally.
Yeah, no. I can understand that, and everybody's got their own way to drink.
Oh, that smells good. That smells really good. I like how dark it is too.
That's just got the whole deal.
Oh, yeah. It's not quite as bold as that.
No, it doesn't have the heat. And it shouldn't.
No.
But it depends on how much ice you put in it.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine how warm this was when
That,
So
yeah.
this is what does a bottle of that normally run?
I don't remember. It's around $100. I think.
Yeah.
80 to 100. Somewhere.
Yeah.
In there. It's not. It's kind of more on the allocated side. So anything is allocated anymore.
Well, this was $100.
Yep.
Uh,
And I think that's a good bourbon.
yeah.
Again, somebody poured that out. Bourbon's like everything else. It's kind of, and I don't know. Again, there's probably people that are listening to this that know a lot more about it than I do. But I feel like there's entry, kind of these gateway bourbons. I
Yeah.
think, like Angel's Envy. I mean, it's so smooth. It's so easy to drink.
Yes.
My wife will drink it. That kind of stuff. The full curl. Again, it's just it doesn't have a lot of burn. Doesn't have a lot of bite. And then I think
As you grow up in
you
bourbons.
kind of start looking for something that kind of provides a little bit of a challenge to your
Yeah.
palate, so to speak.
Yes.
I'm not one of those guys who can tell you if it's cherries and currant and leather and blah, blah, blah. Matter of fact, I was ordering some fancy wines, and I know a little bit about wines. I've done a lot of entertaining
I was
comments
about to
and
say,
customers
I did notice, and I didn't bring it up earlier, that you've got a lot of wine back there.
Yeah, not a lot, but some.
Well, a lot in my
I got to
perspective.
keep my wife happy, too.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
how it
yeah.
works.
Amen.
And we do. We drink quite a bit of wine, and we like the big bold cabs, and you kind of the same thing. You kind of learn what you like, and usually it has. Unfortunately, a lot of the better wines are more expensive, but not all.
Yeah.
And I know one night we'd ordered a pretty nice bottle of wine. The guy was kind of challenging me to my palate and what I was smelling, and I said, "Truly, I mean, what came to mind was it smells like diesel smoke to me, because."
Really?
Not because it did, but because that's what pays for
Yeah.
everything we do. Pretty
Yes.
much is that. So, I don't want to get it out of the where it's just a cognitive academic situation.
No.
I really want to be able to enjoy it, and I like different bourbons because I feel like it's different master distillers or whatever putting their own artistic, kind of feel into their bourbon.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool. I like the weeded bourbons. I don't know this one. I don't think it was weeded, if I remember right. It's got rye and corn and barley. So I'm assuming that, I know like the Paffys, I believe, are weeded. I know that the Wellers are weeded. And
So describe to everybody what you mean by weeded.
it's got wheat in it, I guess.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
And so they use wheat in the process. I think to be a bourbon, it's got to be so much. I think it's got to be so much corn, sour mash.
So the definition of a bourbon is a bourbon has to be made.
Mhm.
Bourbon is
In bourbon
basically whiskey
Right.
that's made in a specific region of Kentucky.
Right.
And it can't, anything outside of that region cannot be called bourbon. And then there's the clarifications of being cast in an oak barrel, charred oak barrel, and so on and so
Single.
forth.
It can only be used. It's got to be a fresh oak barrel.
Yes. And then they can finish it in like in anything they want to.
Which is Angel's Envy's finished in a port
Yes.
barrel, and I think that's what makes it so. I mean, it's very
Smooth.
very easy. Yeah, that would be if somebody came over to the house and we were trying to enjoy a glass of bourbon, and they didn't, like, oh, it's hot, it's this, it's that. I'd probably go to that and say, give it a shot, and see.
So like my wife couldn't drink this straight. She was the only one that had the opportunity to try it before I got here.
Mm-hmm.
So she poured a little in the glass, and nope. So she poured a little pop in it, just for her. But like Angel's Envy, she'll drink straight,
Mhm.
and she just adores Angel's Envy a lot. And we've got to thank you for that because you introduced that to us. And so that's the difference is as we grow up in bourbon.
Mhm.
And I say that we can be as old as we need to be. But you want to that next level of bourbons, and I'm not very good at saying, "Oh, this is this or this is this." I like a really bold, flavored bourbon.
Right.
I can't tell you what the flavors are necessarily 100% of the time, but I really like that when you taste it, you're like, "Oh, that's good."
I love the oak charred. That's like I said, the Woodford Reserve
Yeah.
Double Oak. I love that because it almost feels like I'm chewing on a piece of charcoal. And
Oh, yeah.
For whatever reason, it really meets.
Oh yeah.
I mean, every time I go away from it for a while and I'll pick it up and drink it again, I'm like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's
and
why.
it's that
That's why.
flavor.
Yep.
So for everybody to know that I like to stress this on the podcast. I now am at a stage in my life that I'm really not trying to get intoxicated
Mhm.
ever.
Yeah,
I am trying to enjoy the flavors that I enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of people see people that been very successful in life, and they automatically assume that their lives were cakewalk, and everything about their life was simple. They never saw adversity or struggles. So I'm going to pry a little bit. It wasn't a cakewalk, was it? You've had your adversities, and if I remember right, and at any time if I ask questions I shouldn't, tell me. You've had a little bit of, like I have. 100%. I've had adversity with alcohol. I used to drink 750 milliliters a night, consistently. There's been times I've drank almost an entire handle a night. So no judgment placed here at all.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I bring this up is to say that people can lift themselves up. It's a decision they make. And you've faced your own share of adversity, haven't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, so my history was I started to run some of the largest dealerships in the country, at least the used truck side, and was fairly successful. And for me, I mean, the cool thing about sales is I'm extremely competitive, but only with myself. Maybe with other people some, but I really don't care if other people win or lose against me.
Yeah.
It's kind of I set goals, and you can ask my wife if I set a goal. Holy cow! Hold on. You know?
Yeah.
So part of that is taking on some opportunities with some dealerships that were broke, and I got pretty good at fixing them. And part of that is just, doing what you say and, saying what you do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it, but there was a lot of entertaining involved, and that's how I got involved in maybe some of the heavier bourbons and nicer bourbons and the nicer wines, and I kind of had an unlimited expense
Budget,
I guess. It just, as long as I performed, right? So, I mean, that was always kind of ingrained. Being a little bit of a risk taker, that's a little bit ingrained.
yeah.
And then, starting the business, well, all of a sudden, you get paid last, and it could be the most or the least, or not at all, or you might have to borrow from something, hopefully, that you have. If you don't have it, you got to figure it out. So as we started, actually, there's 4 children in the family. My wife had been married before, and she brought 2 of those children, and I was 30 years old-ish. My wife was actually my high school sweetheart, and we went separate ways, and then we got back together, and then I was running a big dealership, making pretty good money, still even at this day, and that was 20 years ago, substantial money for what we take to live today. And I just quit it and moved to Kansas City from Denver, a little town called Eudora, Kansas, into her house, which was about 800 square foot, 1 bathroom, and luckily it had a basement, so I kicked all the toys to one side and opened up a truck dealership, the next day. Had a really good customer base, right? Pretty good customer base, but I had a really good partner, a guy that believed in me 100%. Well, part of building that is whatever it takes. I mean,
Yeah.
You set goals, right? And so there was some entertaining, and then there became a lot of pressure as the business grew, the expenses grew. As the expenses grow, that means you got to continue the revenue source. And I'm not really sure, kind of how it all fell together, but it seems like our needs were being met, but there always wasn't a lot of money left in the checkbook at the end of the month, quite frankly. It's real easy to generate revenue. It's not so easy to generate what I call net profit.
Yes.
And by the time everybody gets their hands out of it, you're like, whoa. And so anyway, yeah, I mean, there were some times, and I'm 100% okay talking about it, where I way overindulged in being a risk taker. I mean, and having a revenue source, and even though it wasn't always tremendous, you know, always had access to something, even if it was tomorrow's money for today. You know, my gosh, and I have a lot of energy, so I mean, I just wouldn't shut off. You know, I mean, I'd start maybe drinking and having fun. It's not like it wasn't a biological thing. It was kind of more of this mental thing, and it was kind of unhooked me from all those maybe stress and pressures until until you quit drinking, and then the next morning I'm the guiltiest, horriblest feeling dude there ever was or is, and I started realizing that. I also sat down one day and realized that all the stress we had in our family was due to me and probably drinking. I mean, it was not drinking, staying out late, strip clubs, all the whole crap. And honestly, I didn't really enjoy it. You know, I enjoyed it at the moment, but I didn't enjoy it before I went there. I didn't enjoy it after I went there, or you know, whatever. And so I didn't really ever quit drinking, but I pretty much shut it off for a bit just to make sure that there wasn't something going on.
Yeah.
You know, and if it was, I was okay with it. I mean, at first it was kind of weird because all my business associates would go out, and especially when we were at like a convention or something like that, and I wouldn't, and I'd do it intentionally because if I did go, I would overindulge. I could not. It wasn't really it was a problem, but it was more of a tactical problem, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it. And so I said, to heck with it. I'm just not going to do it. And so I just didn't do it. And for a little bit. And then I would get back in, and I actually kind of invited my wife into it, saying, you know, I need you to go to some of these conventions with me because I need to be involved. I feel like I need to engage people at night. You know, deals are made, relationships are struck, but I need you to pull me out when it's time to go. And I did my best. I'd drink. The worst thing to ever, in my opinion, to drink is Diet Coke, because I started drinking Diet Coke. And I would have to pee for like 2 days. I don't know if it's a diuretic or what the hell it is. I don't know. Or maybe I just drink that much because I felt like I had to have something going, you know, and that's what I would do.
I'm going to kick off that. So I basically, so AA for quitters, right? I've never gone to AA, but I basically had a major drinking problem. And so the best way I found to fix that drinking problem, you've seen these guys with cigarettes and they get this motion, like you were talking about, having to have something to drink.
Right.
So what I did is when I've got that urge, it's typically when I finally settle down and I'm trying to get my brain to shut off. Because I don't know, you sound like you're kind of like me, that your brain's just going all the time. So I'll have a drink, and a drink will get my brain to calm down just enough that I can shut off and be able to sleep. But if I think I need to shut off before that, then if I'm not careful, I'll drink a ton. So what I'll do is I'll get myself one drink, and then to your point about having to have something, I'll take my glass and I'll go fill it up with ice water.
And drink it that way.
And then and to me, my brain, the action, right, takes care of I'm completely satisfied. All I've got to do is go keep filling that glass up with ice water, and then I'm going to pee for 3 days.
I think for me it's kind of like, and I think some of the reasons I like bourbons and wines are so much is because I can get as much enjoyment out of smelling it as I can drinking it.
Yes.
So a lot of night. So to encourage my working out, sometimes I'll allow myself to have a bourbon or a glass of wine after I'm done.
There you go.
That's part of it. There's a lot of nights, and if you know what Strava is like the Facebook for workout people would be the way I'd put it. And I am not active on Strava, but I do post all my workouts on Strava, and I do give people the kudos or thumbs up that is in my group. I kind of quit asking for friends. I don't exactly know how it works, but you'll know how busy I am by the time I post my Strava, because I don't post it posts automatically as soon as I get done.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And so when I get done, if you see an 11:30 p.m. post, that means I just got off the bike or I just got done running. I run a lot you're talking about late at night or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and being busy. And I do have I have 3 different LLs. I got 1 S corp and 2 LLCs, and I manage all that through the day. Again, I have good people now that can do that for me. And yes, it truly, totally is a luxury for a long time. And I can go down a way big rabbit hole here, and probably we will eventually. But that's where it all happens. You have to create the processes, in my opinion. And then somebody has to be able to, not necessarily embrace them, they just have to pound the round peg in the round hole. And you just got to make sure that they understand the difference between a round and a square peg. And if it's a square peg, they have to, and some of that's, management by
Example.
well, and it's management by exception. They need to know that there's a square peg, or maybe it's an hexagon peg, and there's no hexagon hole. They need to bring that to you. The round peg they pound right in the round hole,
Yep.
right in the square peg, but they see a hexagon peg. They need to know that's a hexagon peg. It's best that they don't try to figure out which of those holes to pound it into and try to pound it.
And just make a phone call.
Yeah, they got to come and see me, and that's we talk a lot about, and a lot of that I've learned in the business management is I'm fairly amicable type guy, but if you trip my trigger, it's pretty sudden, and I have to be real careful of that, because usually they're trying to do the right thing, and so if you step on them too hard, then they're going to kind of pull back, and truly you're kind of screwing with their confidence.
Yeah.
You've got to be real careful there, and I have to watch that, because I'm very direct, and I will say that with them. You understand I'm very direct, and kind of the 1 minute manager thing. I mean, I've been through all these management schools and all that, and so you give them the hell, and then you kind of back it off, and you kind of talk about all the good stuff, and you reprocess it, and so that's kind of all part of why I still, hopefully a lot of times now I can leave at 5 o'clock. I hadn't been in the office for a whole solid week since the middle of June until maybe this week. No, I won't even be in there this week because we have this today. And then Friday, my she's a senior, and so we're going to the college to visit the college. And so we're leaving on Friday. I don't know what time. I'll have to ask my wife.
Yeah.
But sometime on Friday, I don't even know if I'll go into the office or not. But I have really good guys that do very well financially, and that's important. I do a lot of deals, and a lot of times probably I could say, no, that's my deal. I know you did. I'll pay you a little bit for helping me with it, but I'm going to go ahead and take that deal. Realize all my guys, part of kind of how I live, they eat what they kill or kill what they eat, or however you want to say that. They're
Amen.
100% commission. And so at the end of the day, I don't even oftentimes, I look at their commissions, it's only to process it. I analyze it to make sure for a couple of reasons. Are there expenses that we didn't get posted to the vehicle because we have to all participate in that together? And then to make sure that each person gets their right percentages, because I have an office manager who's done very well. It's taken her a while, and if she's here, she'd be like smiling right now, because I told her, it's kind of like you've been running up the Empire State Building through the elevator, and you're looking in all the windows. Eventually, we're going to have you climb through each one of those and walk through each one of those stories, and so you're going to know exactly what each one of them means. But right now, you're just looking in it. And as she's got through more of those stories, she's got better at it. So usually when she brings it to me, literally it's flipping through it. The first couple times she brought it to me, it was all I could do, not to, burn the thing right in front of her and ask her, what she's doing. So, anyway, that's...
So what's amazing about that is I'm starting to, so I am a control freak. Yeah. I don't know any other way to put it. Mm-hmm. Micromanager, control freak, and I have driven all our businesses from CQ Game Birds to Rub Me Down Barbecue. I have just spearheaded everything. So with things coming, we've put together a board, a board of directors, and so now we have different levels that I'm working with. And through my other opportunities, like being president of Pheasants Forever, I finally learned what you're very much talking about is you got to let go enough so the other person can fail or grow, so you can teach them to make it better.
Yep. Yeah, I used to be almost 100% of our sales, and we don't put this out there a lot. We do about 100 million a year in sales. Well, last year we did a little over 100 million. We probably had, that was a big year, so I'm being probably a little bit over optimistic there. We probably average about $60 million a year in sales. So
Yeah.
in order to do that kind of volume, I mean, the average vehicle price is probably about 50, and somebody doing the math, they're going to realize I'm off here, because with COVID and then the supply chain and then the inflation, trucks went way through the roof, and now they're coming back down. We do about 2,000 units a year, and so I got one person that processes all that paperwork. And you understand?
Holy cow, one person.
Yeah, she does it. Well, now my wife started to help out. She gets fired like every 3 weeks. She shows back up, and, but yeah, one person does it. And so in order to do that, I had to create a very streamlined deal. And so, I mean, you realize, because every time she touches the titles twice. I mean, a vehicle has to have a title that goes with it, right? So it comes in and goes out. So that's 4,000 titles a year without doing any invoicing or any.
That's a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, she's.
I think there's 256 days. 250. How many days are there in a year?
365. Well, there's 365, but probably
365.
Work days, there's probably a little bit better than half that. I think we always figured out 220 or something. I don't really don't know, but somewhere in there. So you're talking 40 titles a day.
Yeah,
right?
40 titles a day.
Maybe somebody doing the math again, maybe they'll give you a little comment at the bottom of the thing.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to get hell for the how many days in the year are there?
Yeah. But yeah, so in order to do that, you have to have good processes. So yeah, I mean, if I built several businesses, and they are relatively successful. I mean, in standard business terms, what most people who probably working on 9 to 5 would be like, wow, hopefully someday,
Yeah.
And
but you're never working 9 to 5.
No, not really.
Let's be clear about that. Yes, you took a week's vacation or whatever to go to Canada, and we're going to talk about the Canada trip here in a minute.
Yeah. Being somehow.
But I almost bet you that phone was that phone with you?
Oh, but yeah, but no, then it goes satellite. I do everything satellite.
Yeah.
At that point.
So the phone, no matter what kind of phone.
Yeah, I have to have communication, because all the business dealings are done. I have to be involved in that because of the financial side of it, and so I have a really good bank, and so actually I actually have, like, how to put it, just letters that I can text him, and he knows what it means. So if I'm borrowing like $1 million, because I might be borrowing $1 million on the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
And I can just text him certain letters, and he knows exactly what I'm saying by that.
So
and he'll put the money in our account.
The point I mean by that is you're not 9 to 5.
No.
And any entrepreneur that expects to be successful is never 9 to 5.
No, and I always tell everybody, call me on my cell phone all the time. I just answer it when I want to, and that's truly. And then there was an old Nextel. Some people may not know. Nextel.
I know Nextel.
Nextel was a phone company that went away a long time ago, but they had that little walkie-talkie thing, and there was a billboard sign. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it basically alluded to, some people are just going to take every phone call or everything. I mean, these are the people we're built for, and I always thought that was cool, because that's kind of who I am.
Yes, you are.
Even if I'm not able to take the phone call, I always hit you with, can I call you later? And I will. And if you want to leave me a voicemail for whatever reason, don't bother, because I'm not going to. I haven't listened to a voicemail for years.
Yeah.
I just called people back. And a lot of people are like, well, I left it on the voicemail. I'm like, okay, well.
Yeah, I get in trouble with, I'll see I have a missed call, and I just flip over to that and hit call, and I call that person back, where I keep hearing a phone vibrate. Speaking.
That's me.
Is that you? Or is that
That's just somebody's in the front yard.
Okay. I was just
It could be me. Was yours vibrating too?
Well, I've got some stuff headed for the weekend, and I keep hearing a phone vibrate, and I keep checking my watch, and so
It's just you're probably feeling it.
so the next thing I would like to talk about, and we talked about your most memorable experience, and we talked about your funniest experience. The one thing I would like to go back to, and it's important to me, and it's going to kind of seem like I'm beating this subject to death, but so as I said before, the veterans thing is so important to me personally. My brother was a Coast Guard and a police officer. Died in service as a police officer. So and lots of my family's been in the military. So kind of personal, right? So we talked about camo, right? Don't use names, mm-hmm. right? What was the most memorable experience for you?
Ooh. Just simply because, I've been intimately involved with that. So, and so camo for me is even bigger than camo because it started before camo ever existed.
Yeah.
I told you about the first hunt. Actually, the guy he came down with, he had one arm that had been blown off, TBI. Basically gutted him. Probably being a little bit, but that's how these guys talk, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
You don't know what these guys give until you see it, because we only see what's on the news, and they only show us what they want. And I understand that because some of it's pretty raw. I still have it somewhere, or probably up in the cabinet. So, I don't know. Guys from Texas again. Palestine. Not Palestine. Palestine. Palestine.
Palestine.
Yeah, Palestine. So anyway, he's, it's like 40 degrees in the morning. It's like it's freezing over, man. It's like, I don't know if I can make it. Dude, it's
40.
So I'm making some, I think it might have been hot chocolate. It was either hot chocolate or coffee. I put it in a mug, or not a mug, in a little back thermos, and it's a small one. Well, he had because he was missing his arm, he had this whole bag of hands, right? He got a steak knife one, the traditional hook one, and he had one that's called an eye hand, and he could actually use it, but he had to look at it because it somehow could sense your nerves. And every once in a while, it just starts spinning in circles and just all kinds of crazy stuff. Well, I reach out to shake his hand. He'd never shake with that hand. I'm like, why don't you shake with that hand? He says, because I can't tell you how hard I'm pressing, and it's a mechanical device. I'm like, okay. I didn't really think too much about it. So I hand him the coffee thing, goes hunting, comes back for the day. It's got a freaking handprint in it, where he had grabbed it.
Oh, wow.
And didn't realize how hard he was squeezing it. So, I don't know. There's just so many. Some of us listen to the guys talk. I know one of them, he talked about, the cavalry dudes, they were talking about, they were out in war, and they're going forever, and they don't sleep, right? They're just going. They're just moving. If you can advance, I'm guessing you don't stop. You got the element. You're moving. And so I guess the tank turret, obviously you got the guy running it, and so he fell asleep, and he fell asleep on the joystick or whatever it is, the button or whatever. And this turret's just going in a circle, and they can't get it to stop, and they know he's probably in there hopefully just asleep or whatever. Mm-hmm. I guess it's pretty dangerous to climb up on this.
Oh, yeah.
So they got to climb up. So, him talking about getting up on top of that. Just, I don't know, just some of the, there's just the raw stuff, I mean, some guys are real emotional about it. Some guys are real detached from it, and you can tell by the stories they tell. And I'm not the guy that, I'm not the judge. I'm just the guy.
No.
That, I want that stuff to kind of come out. We've had some interventions. Some guys that probably needed some help. Seen him get help. Seen a guy kind of get his act together. I mean, those are the kind of cool things. I didn't even create this. I mean, it kind of created itself. I just had the idea, and just seeing some of the stuff is really cool. Like I said, for me, at the end of the deal, if they know that how much I appreciate what they've done, that it's 100%. If it takes the financial thing's easy because
Yeah.
been blessed there, but it's letting them know how important it is that I know that what they've done is, it's allowed me to do what I want to do.
Oh yeah.
That those guys, they embrace the suck. I think about it a lot when I'm freaking climbing a mountain, and I mean I'm freaking smoked, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and I know I've got to get over. I know where I'm going, and I got to get there, and I know it's. And I use that as motivation.
Yeah.
I know them guys don't ever. Sometimes they don't know where they're going. Sometimes I don't either, but not on the same plane.
No. Yeah. When you get over the side of the hill,
you're
just getting over the side of the hill.
Freaking bear comes along, probably not. Never had any issues like that.
But
these guys.
There's not going to be a platoon of somebody on the other side.
Yeah, somebody with the ability to think and look and see and pinpoint and
eliminate.
Yep. So
yeah.
It's just, I don't know, for whatever reason it's become near and dear to me.
I understand that completely, 100% completely. So when you have been, normally we talk about this. This is a little different podcast. Normally we feed everybody before we eat, and we talk about the food and all this and other things. But I have the advantage of coming here with you that you've eaten our food.
Right. Oh yeah.
Numerous times.
Oh. So is that where we're going?
Yeah, that's where we're going.
Because I already went there today because I was talking about the guys and.
Yeah.
And so because I don't know, we're gonna bring our guys out hopefully the 13th or the 15th of January.
Well, it's locked.
Yep. So we get everybody out there, and I don't know how. I mean, there's 9 of us, and we'll see, and we're going to see how it works. But I told them not to worry because really, I mean, the hunting is only part of it.
Yeah.
We start talking about the food, and George is George, and
is George the guy that got really excited at the camo thing and was buying a lot of stuff?
No, that's Jason.
Okay.
No, George is the guy that doesn't like vegetables and everything. And
well, he's going to love us.
That's exactly what I told him. And they're like, well, I'm like, oh yeah, no. It's 100% home cooked kind of. So I grew up in Western Kansas, so I understand that 100%. I'm guessing a lot of people get out there and trying to figure it out, and they don't. I'm sure for them, it's not necessarily a shock or anything. It's just 100% home cooked meals. The way it probably was meant to be.
Yeah.
And the way that's saying meant to be was at one point in time in life, we had to physically earn our wages by physical activity.
Yes.
And Western Kansas was not the exception to that at all.
Yeah.
You got up in the morning and you ate a big hearty breakfast because you were going to go work your tail off.
Yep. Yes.
And then you're going to hopefully get a little something for lunch. Usually probably maybe even away from the house. So oftentimes you took your lunch with you or whatever. But if you did come in, the whole dinner bell, right? The triangle thing, right? Because it was time to eat. By God, you didn't want to be the last one.
No, you did not.
Yeah, so that's, if they're going to come out and enjoy it the whole way, they get the whole perspective.
Yes.
The whole perspective.
Yes, and and that's the thing about coming out with us is so perfect example. I'm going to talk about this rub right here that I brought you tonight. You know who asked us to make this for them?
No, quite well. Yeah.
Wes Spinks.
Yep.
it says Spinks Ranch beef rub. So I've had people ask me, so is it ranch flavored? No.
Oh, that's true. I never thought about that because I know it's Spinks Ranch.
No, right? It's not Spinks. It's not Spinks Ranch flavored beef rub. It is Spinks Ranch beef rub. And Spinks Ranch is a cattle company. It's basically what they are. And they asked us to develop this. And one of the options we open up, and I don't. Have you got has your group asked us to make you prime rib yet?
No, because I've never been part of the organization, so it's always been. I've always went there with Wes.
Oh yeah, so Wes has another group that comes.
Yep.
That is the Lutherans men's group, and they ask for prime rib on the first night, and so we use Spinks Ranch on the prime rib, and so this is how good the prime rib is. They rescheduled the hunt before hunting Saturday morning.
Wow, because just the food. Yeah, and that's. I mean, so for me, like I said, obviously I spend a lot of time in the field hunting.
Yeah.
And it's not about just taking game. I mean, obviously, if everything works out right and you do that, but there's so much more to it. For me. And
it's about the camaraderie.
For me,
it's about the good times.
And sometimes as a solo, it's still about the camaraderie. Yes. I don't know if that's weird or not.
No, it isn't, because a lot of people struggle with this. They see me on podcasts. They see me. Our banquets. This year, you saw the banquet. It was pretty small. It was only about 250 people. Normally, our banquet's about 400 people.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm used to being in front of 400 people, talking to people all the time. But what people don't realize is I'm really not that much of a people person. I like my small groups. I like, but I really, the biggest thing that I can engage in, and the part of the reason I really enjoy the outfitting side and the cooking side, is I like to deal with people like yourself. The people like to go out and hunt and spend time and have fun.
Right.
And that's what we try to open up through the businesses that we provide. And like this rub, we developed it for Wes and all those guys, and now we sell it on our website. But those are the opportunities that people can come when they come to us to hunt. We literally will send you a list now of
your menu.
Here's your options. Obviously, with an option, there's options, right?
Right.
And then they can choose, and so you can come down and have a fantastic meal like you guys normally have when you come down, or you can kick it up a notch, right? So I know it's a long ramble to get to this. So what do you think about them Butter Swim biscuits?
Oh yeah. No, yeah. There's a certain, and you realize I was on the program when I went there.
See, I was going to go there, so I
was trying not to eat too much. I did pretty good, probably, really.
So we
because there wasn't any salad.
Yeah. So salad.
I need filler.
That's kind of funny. So the last time you were down, you were trying to get ready for a hunt.
Yep.
And you were on a program.
Yep.
Day one, you come in. We have chicken fried steak and all the fillings, and our chicken fried steak's like this big.
Right.
And so, and your son's with you and everything else. And
thank goodness.
Yeah. And I saw you only finished half a plate, and I was like, and not even half, actually. Right. You knew what you had to eat to stay on your program. And I was like, everything okay? And you were like, yeah, everything's great. And he explains it to me. Next morning, so you guys come down and you guys stay. You come down one night and you stay 2 days, and then you go home the third day, or fourth day, or whatever it is. So that next morning you come down and I think we had eggs, bacon, what I call a traditional country breakfast. And you guys come down and about lunchtime, I think, is when you looked at me and said, yeah, I'm not going to make it.
Right.
And the food's too good.
We've been walking a lot too, so
Yeah.
that allowed me to.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like Wes puts it, he goes, he said he was trying to tell somebody about the food, and he goes, it's real simple. We come down and they walk us to death, but by the end of the weekend, I still put on weight.
Yep. No, you guys do a great job, and like I said, I have my own program, so that's different. Most people that show up, dude, they're gonna enjoy the heck out of it, and I do too. Just I try to limit it because I have a certain calorie intake. What I found out when I was 280 and now that I'm 175 is this: that you cannot outwork a bad diet. You know what? And
No.
So part of that is everybody has their own goals in life, and mine was to cut some weight, and I want to be that predator type guy on the side of a mountain, and so there's certain goals I have to have, and that's one of them. And to this day, I mean, I can tell you already how many calories I've eaten today. I've tried to save a few because you're cooking dinner.
Oh yeah, we're cooking dinner for you.
But I can tell you this: if you burn more calories than you eat, you're going to lose weight. It has nothing to do with metabolism. Maybe some people burn calories faster or whatever. I don't know. I know some people are gluten sensitive. They tend to not gain weight because I think their body sheds all that gluten out real quick. But outside of that, that's just all there is.
Yeah.
You can eat as much fat, as much protein, as much carbs, to my understanding, as you want. But once you eat over so many calories,
you're going to put on weight.
People talk about macros. I follow macros a little bit because I work really hard and I burn every calorie that I eat. So if I don't have the right amount of calories in me, I'm going to either start losing muscle mass, start getting injured, or my thought processes are going to get weird because I don't have enough calories I don't have any extra calories to bridge over those gaps. So I know that when I'm doing it.
So the good thing about what we feed you guys is, I think you would agree with this, nothing's unhealthy.
No, just good wholesome, hard, just good food.
Everything's 100% homemade.
Yep.
You're not getting any byproducts of anything.
Nope.
And we really strive to produce a meal that is very hard to get anywhere else.
Absolutely. It's great. It's awesome. And had no issues with that at all. Portion distortion.
Yeah.
And you know what? If somebody wants to eat 3 plates, it's there, right?
Yes, it is.
You're not the arbiter of that.
No.
I was my own arbiter. And that's how I do it.
It's pretty. And the one thing that really screams to me about your group when you guys come down is, you guys have been down numerous years, is you've brought your wife, you've brought your daughter, you brought your son, Wes brings his whole family,
Right.
They bring whole families, and we really cater to the entire family.
Yep.
So one of the things I remember a lot of the ladies talking about is, it was like a vacation for them, even though they weren't hunting.
That's true.
They came down, they didn't have to do dishes, they didn't have to do this. All the meals were made for them. They were most of the time made before they were even thinking about making them.
Yep.
Because we serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner when you come.
Yep.
As long as you're staying in the lodge.
Yep.
I think all together it's a really good family experience.
I agree.